بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. So the first thing that we need to go over, and that is that this surah, Surah al Waqiah, it is named so because Waqiah is one of the names of the resurrection. And this is one of the surahs that talk in detail about how the resurrection will be like. And it seems like it is a topic that many are very interested. And if you look throughout the Quran itself, maybe you could say a third of the Holy Quran, the verses are about the hereafter. And one of the purpose of this, not only is it the purpose of informing us that what is going to happen, okay, so, but reminding us. And that is very important, because some people ask this question, well, why do, some verses of the Quran or the theme repeat? Or why, for example, do you repeat the same surah, Surah al-Hamd, in your salat, for example? So we cannot be of the ghafilun, we cannot be of those that forget. Because it's very easy for mankind to forget the purpose of creation and man's destination. So we need reminders. And when you recite Surah al Waqiah, the narration that we read, one of the benefits is that you will not be written as the ghafilun, those that are neglectful. Because when you read this surah, there's no way you can forget about the hereafter. So therefore, this surah reminds us of the resurrection, teaches us and reminds us, because we all need that, maw'idah, or that advice, or that nasiha, that admonition, to allow us to keep remembering our destination. Every day that we're living, Allah has given us a time period. And if we forget about the hereafter, we won't work for the hereafter. There's a beautiful tradition from the Prophet that in the day of resurrection, a chest will be opened up, a chest. And a person sees the chest in the hereafter and sees that there's so much light in it, so much happiness in it, that if you put this happiness in the dwellers of hell, they would actually become, less chastised. They would become, in a way, they wouldn't remember their pain as much. And they open it up, the chest, and they say, what is this? They say is an action. Amal as-salih is a good action of obedience. So it has that light. But what is each chest? Each chest is each hour. It's 1 hour of one time period that person did something good. So you can say that our, hours that we have throughout the day, those 24 hours, all can be in a chest. And each chest will open up and say, what did you do in this hour? Another chest will open, it'll be an hour spent, and God forbid, ma'siyah, in the narration has. And that person becomes so sad that if you put this sadness to the dwellers of heaven, that they would become sad. Then the last chest, and this is the reason why I mentioned this hadith, this last chest opens up and it's empty. There's nothing in it. And what do you think happens then? It's empty. He still becomes sad. It says that this chest is there and there's nothing in it, because the day of judgment we'll be thirsty for good action. Today we're thirsty for dirham and dinar, for silver coins, gold coins, bitcoins, cryptocurrencies, whatever, dollars. But in the hereafter we're thirsty for good action. And then when this chest opens up and there's nothing in it, that person will be sad as well. So therefore we have these time periods throughout the day, and they're preserved in these different chests, and each time period will be asked, what we did? So one of the best ways for us to keep working in this world is to remember that the hereafter, everything is being recorded, everything is being accounted for, and everything that we do is impactful to our lives, which is an eternity. Allama Tabatabai, who is one of the commentators of the Quran, in the middle of class, and he's teaching whatever philosophy, whatever topic, in the middle of class he would tell his students, my dear friends, my dear students, You have an eternity in front of you. You have an eternity in front of you. So surahs like Surah al Waqiah or recitation of Quran gives us that focus that we need in order for us to, act better, in order for us to remain focused on, the hereafter. So this surah is the surah of resurrection, Qiyamah. Surah al Waqiah is a Mekki surah. And you know the difference between Mekki and Medina surahs. Surahs that came in, even though the Quran, all of it is entirely came in night of Qadr to the heart of Rasulullah, but the gradual revelation of the Quran to the people was through a process. And so we divide the chapters to Mekki verses, surahs, or we divide them into surahs for Medina. The difference from these are usually that the time period of Mecca was different than the time period of Medina. So a lot of those rulings, or verses that have to do with rulings, are in the Medina verses, for example. A lot of verses that deal with the hereafter, with theology, are in Mecca. So this is actually one of the proofs that when it's about the revelation, you understand that it's a Mekki surah. So every tafsir that you look at, usually you have a section, the little introduction. You have a section that talks about what happens if you recite this surah. So when we look at some of the hadith we have, it's the fadilah of reciting this, and so and to encourage us. We said that narration is in Majmu' al-Bayan. I hope you remember Majmu' al-Bayan, one of the top tafsirs that we mentioned, last week. In this tafsir book, it has Man qara'a Surah al Waqiah kutiba laysa min al-ghafilin. Whoever recites Surah al Waqiah is written for him that is not of the ghafilin, those that have forgotten. Because you cannot forget Allah when you really think of these verses and ponder about these verses. You cannot think or forget and neglect the hereafter, because the surah is about the hereafter. Or you have in this hadith from, this hadith, actually I didn't bring it there. It should be, yes, here it is. It's actually right here. Shayyabatni. The first, actually you can look at the slides. Shayyabatni, which means in Arabic, to make someone old. So Surah al-Hud, the Prophet in hadith says, has made me old. Al-Waqi'ah has made me old, and Al-Mursalat and Wa'amma yatasa'alun, these have made me old. Why? Because they talk about the resurrection, the Qiyamah, the day that the tradition talks, if you have 70 actions of 70 prophets, imagine, take 70 prophets, imagine you have the action of them, you will still fear in the day of judgment what will be happening. So therefore, a very fearful day. Or you have this hadith from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. It's a very nice hadith. So the hadith that was Shayyabatni is in, let's see here. Yes, I don't have this source. It should be Khisal. Let's see, Khisal al-Saduq, it should be. The third hadith that I want to mention today is in Thawab al-A'mal, also from Shaykh al-Saduq. From Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Man qara'a fi kull laylat al-jum'ah wa al-waqi'ah. So this is about specifically when you recite it the night of Friday, for example, Thursday night. Whoever recites the surah, ahabbahu Allah, Allah loves him, wa ahabbahu ila nasi jami'a, everyone loves them. You want to have lots of followers, you want to have people love you, you want to go in the masjid and everyone say, I love you, assalamu alaikum, and hug you, recite the surah, inshallah. Recite the surah. وَلَمْ يَرَ فِي الدُّنْيَا بُؤْسًا أَبَدًا وَلَا فَقْرًا وَلَا فَاقًا وَلَا آفَى مِنْ آفَاتِ الدُّنْيَا. So what else does this surah do? So this is, Quran is medicine. Quran is medicine. Quran relieves shifa. It relieves the problems, the ailments that we have. So it says that in this world he won't see difficulty, hardship, or faqr, or poverty. So, or afa, for example. These types of diseases, min afat ad-dunya. وَكَانَ فِي رَفَقَاءِ أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ. And he will be of the friends of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. That's if you want to say the best fadila and what you want to do, that's enough to recite the surah that, you'll become of the, it says, Rafaqa Amir al-Mu'minin, become of the friends of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So, question is this, okay, so Sayyiduna, you're saying I recite this, I'm going to win the lottery, for example, if it was halal, imagine, I'm going to recite this surah and then in the morning I'm going to buy a lottery ticket and I'm going to win lots of money. Or, for example, I'm going to recite this and during COVID times and I'm going to take off my mask and I'll do wherever I want to go. So remember two things, always. When you see thawabul a'mal, always remember these two things. Or always remember this, that this has potential. This has iqtida. Iqtida means potential. It has potential to do this, as long as the mawani and barriers are removed. So when you talk about these, fadilat and the virtue of these surahs, it means it can do this. This is the capability. Everything has a capability, right? Has a potential. But does it mean I will reach the full potential? Well, it means if I remove the barriers. One of the barriers is sin. Sin doesn't allow things to have its proper effect. Actually, I remember one of our teachers in the Hawza was mentioning that this person started reading Surah al Waqiah and he was from the awliya of God. Wali is like a secret worshipper of God that is truly sincere. He sees things. He is, completely in the path of, ubudiyat and worship. And he, with his, taqwa that he had, he recited this. And he said, I'm going to stop reciting it for a while because I'm getting too much money. And I'm going to stop reciting it. So if somebody really has that effect of, not sinning, and acting upon the surah, which, all the time I told my Karam says, don't be like a parrot and just, if a parrot reads this, is this going to become a rich parrot? No. It has to be reciting it and learning from it and acting upon it and then removing the barriers. And then you'll call me Sayyid and say, MashaAllah, Sayyid, I won the lottery, alhamdulillah. I'm just joking about the lottery. Let's go through this nice division that Wiki Shia has done. Wiki Shia is from Qom, and a lot of times I use it because the notes are already made and it has, good, really quick points. Let's talk about the contents of this surah. This surah is, has three main topics. Okay, there's the first topic, and you can look on the left. It says, on the left side, it's like in light purple. It says the destiny of the three groups of the people on the day of resurrection. This verse divides into three groups. Maybe, I'll explain it today. There's three groups, first of all, that this surah mentions. Why do you think it's divided into three? Okay, so the first group is, usually when you think of it logically, either people are bad or people are good, right? Isn't there heaven and hell? Okay, that's it. You're either good or bad, for example, in the Day of Judgment. Why is there three? And that's what one of the interesting things about the surah is. So the first group is as-sabiqun. First of all, let's just say this. We have ashabul yamin. You can look in verses 27 to 40. Ashabul yamin are the people of the right hand. Those that be giving their actions on their right hand. Where do they go to? Heaven. Those that, God forbid, will be given their actions on the left hand. Ashabul shimal. They're on the, people of the left. The punishment of the wretched. Okay, that's logical. That's logical so far. But then you have another group, which is as-sabiqun, the foremost. So that's not logical. It's like either you're good or you're bad, but then you're super good. And that you can understand the encouragement that Allah is giving us is that those that are as-sabiqun, those that are foremost, they're so good they deserve their own category. They deserve their own reward. They deserve their own verses. 11 to 26 is about as-sabiqun, not just ashabul yamin. The first and foremost. And there's a first and foremost of everything. For example, you have Friday prayers. So there's that person that comes there earlier. Or you have, for example, this class. That person that comes the first. Our teacher, oftentimes I was late myself when I was a student, but our teacher would always say, if you notice the first person in class, they're usually the most nurani, they have the most light, because they're the first ones there getting ready, nobody else is there, they're waiting. So be a sabiqun. Or when it comes to helping someone, who will help me? But who do you think is the most sabiqun of everyone when it comes to Islam? And why do you say that this chapter belongs to this person? Some say it's the surah of who? Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Imam Ali. So he is a sabiqun when it comes to everything. When you look at his life, from his iman to who will assist me in my message, Ali alayhi salam. Who is going to fight this, evil champion or whatever? Me, I will fight, Ali alayhi salam. Who is going to be the first one to help the poor? Me, Ali alayhi salam. Who's going to be the first one? So everything you see that Imam Ali alayhi salam was always the first, a sabiqun. And nobody can ever go further than Imam Ali, faster than Imam Ali. Nobody can ever catch up to Imam Ali alayhi salam. That is why when it comes to Imam Ali, and he was so foremost, life is a race, you can say from this surah. Life is a race, and we're all running to get the highest position we can. It's a time. If we look at it, it's like on your mark, it's like go. Allah gives you time. And you see in the front is Ali alayhi salam running the fastest towards God. And therefore, when it comes to Imam Ali, you can either be two ways. You can either appreciate that and see he's running towards Allah and look at his actions that nobody can ever do with that sincerity. Nobody does. That one of his actions, for example, is equal to the action of jinn and ins together when he hit, for example, Amr ibn Abdul Wad, for example. You either become humble when it comes to Imam Ali and you see his actions, or, God forbid, if there's a problem with you, you start to become jealous. And you try to catch up to him. And you try to see him, you start becoming jealous, and then hatred of Imam Ali develops, as it developed in some people that later on fought Imam Ali in the Battle of Jamal. They started to get jealous, even though they followed the Prophet, they followed Imam Ali. But they started to get jealous. And I'll talk maybe later on, we don't have time, some of these people that they didn't truly appreciate Imam Ali, and they didn't do, taslim to him, they didn't obey him, and later on they began to be jealous. So we see these three groups of people. And this is for us encouragement that look, not only the Quran is beautiful, and if you look at how teachers, for example, should teach and how you should raise your kids, you can either just raise them good to pass, or you can raise them, for example, not to fail. Or you can have this way of tarbiyat, what Allah is teaching us, that you teach them to be the best. I want you to be the best. I want you to be faster than everyone. Run faster in sports. I want you to run the best. To be the best person in sports. When it comes to class, study the most. I want you, when it comes to worship, to be the best. Because we all have that potential to reach kamal and perfection. And therefore Allah is, again, bringing that out of us to be the best, because nobody likes to be imperfect. Nobody really likes to be the second best, right? We all want to be the best, and we should. So when it comes to these things, even when it comes to wishing that you had what another person has, that's not jealousy, that's ghibta. That's just wishing that you had what somebody else had. So these are the verses. The first topic, 1 to 56, from 96 verses, the destiny of the three groups of the people on the day of resurrection. 2, argument for the resurrection. Why is there the resurrection? Because people would deny this. And it's to their benefit to deny. They want to deny. Who wants to believe in a day that every atom's weight of good or evil it will be seen? I'll be asked about it. Who wants to believe in this? It's hard. If I told you tomorrow you have this, huge exam that they're going to ask everything about you, you keep wanting to say, no, let me stop thinking about it. Let me go talk to my friends. Let me go give this call. I want to procrastinate. So that's why it's hard, the day of the resurrection for some. It's because they look at, this day that we're going to be accounted. Everything that we do is going to be accounted for. So therefore there needs to be proofs. First reason, we have 5762, the power of the creator of humans over the revival. 2, 6380, occurrence of resurrection is required by the lordship of God in the life of humans. And 3, we have 81 and 94, impossibility of preventing humans' death. So therefore we're going to go through these. These are just the topics. It's just an introduction. I'm not going to talk about what it actually says. Conclusion, then we have in verse 95 and 96. And then it has a beautiful conclusion at the end. So Bismillah has 5 parts. So Ba in Arabic, I don't remember exactly. I think in some of our Nahu books had like 8 or 9 meanings. So ba has 9 meanings. So one of them is al-ilsaq, attachment, or ista'ana. Ba is used for al-ista'ana, to help, or musahiba, companionship. So you have to see how it's used. So we can use, these in this, in different ways. So in this way, that action would neither be rendered null or void, nor remain incomplete. It has been started in the name of Allah, and negation, annihilation cannot reach that sacred name. So that is part of, when you say something with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that action is, in a way, attached to God. So let me see, start with this one now. Okay. Allama Tabatabai has a nice, introduction about starting. You say Bismillah in Arabic, Bismillah. It has to be connected to a verb. You can't just say Bismillah, because harf jar and majroor in the Arabic it needs a muta'allaq. It needs to be attached to something. You can't just say, maybe in English, like in the house. If I just say in the house, well, what is in the house? What about it? So in the name of God. Well, what in the name of God? What's going on? You need a verb, right? So you need a verb. So some say that there is another verb that's hidden. There's a verb that's hidden. Abtada. I start with Bismillah. Abtada, for example. Or aqra'u. I recite Quran, for example, in the name of Allah. So you are starting your action, or whatever action you're doing, that's your intention. Like, I'm going to drive my car, I'm going to start driving my car, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm going to step, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm going to teach class, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I start with, you say, Abtada'u, I start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So Allama Tabatabai in Al-Mizan mentions that people take the names of their great and powerful personalities many of times, often, at the beginning of the work. And they say, like, this is for this person, or this is why I'm doing it, for example. By this association, it is believed the work would achieve success, greatness, and blessings. For example, in memory of, sometimes I read books or something, I did this for this person, or whatever, in memory of, whatever, this. So what happens when you start with Allah? So this verse runs in the same line. Allah begins His speech with His own name, great in His name, so that the ideas taught in this chapter, say Surah al Waqiah, are stamped by Him. Say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah mentions this Himself, so therefore it is in His name you're doing it. It is stamped by Him and is associated with God. Also, it teaches us a lesson to mankind to show them the perfect manner of starting all their talks and actions. It is also when you say, okay, when Quran, every verse of Quran has Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it's teaching me mannerisms that when I want to start something like recitation or start anything in my life, I can start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That is the most complete way to start something. It is an adab. It guides them to put the stamp of the divine name on all their activities, doing every work for the sake. So what happens, I ask you, when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? Naturally, that action will be for God. In that action, you will not forget God. Because we do a lot of actions every day. Even if you look at the decisions you make, maybe you may make something like 35,000 decisions a day. You have so many things that you have intentions throughout the day. So what you're learning is that start making some, at least your greater decisions, the major decisions, you start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your big actions, you start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And this will allow you to do that action for God. You ask yourself, well, if it's haram, nobody says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and gets into, for example, eats a pork, for example, ham sandwich, or for example, right? They don't do that. So when you do Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you know it is for God, it's for His sake, I want to do it. And we can do this for everything in our actions. Everything we say Bismillah, 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 Bismillah. Right? And we should, inshallah, encourage ourselves to do this more. And negation of annihilation or reaching, so doing it for something else. So ba is, we said 9 meanings, al-ilsaq, let's see here, attachment, help, ista'ana, So this is with the attachment of the name of Allah. I start with the attachment, for example, of the name of Allah. Or ba can be here help. I start with the help of Ismullah. I start with the help, ista'ana, I'm seeking help. I start with the help. Or companionship, ma'a. I'm doing this with, the name of Allah, for example. Al-ism is the word that points to the named thing or person. It is derived from sima, for example, sign, identifying mark. Or samu, you can say height, eminence. In any case, it is the word by which any individual, thing, or person is spoken of or spoken to. Everyone has an ism. Everyone has a name. Naturally, it is other than and separate from the named thing. So I start with that named thing. The name, but what name is it? Allah, which was originally Ilah. And the I, so Al-Ilah. The Ilah in the middle was omitted because of frequent use. So it was Al-Ilah. Ilah means God. Ilah, La ilaha. So it's Al-Ilah, the God, for example. Al-Ilah, or the worshipped. Ilah means worshipped. So it's derived from Alaha, the verb, which he worshipped, for example. So it's Al-Ilah. And then frequently Al-Ilah, 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 Allah mentions, it becomes Allah, the worshipped. So therefore, or some say it comes from Wala, or Allah, to mean he was bewildered. So the being that we cannot understand completely his essence, or completely understand his kun, his maximum existence, because it bewilders us, because he's wajibul wujud, his necessary existence, and we are contingent existence, and his existence is different than our existence. So when it comes to the true reality of God, what he truly is, we cannot, understand it because it's far beyond us, for example, to be bewildered. It can be that, or it be, from worship. So when you say now, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and we'll just end this today with this. Harf is a preposition. So preposition in the name of Allah, or it says, I began, Abtada'u bi Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I start. But now Allama Tabatabai wants to add something in it. And he says, well, when you talk about Quran and you want to start Quran, what does that mean? When you want to start Quran and recite Quran, you ask, why was the Quran sent? He says you have to think about it, because you can reach your completion, you can become the best. And that means you're guided to the best, because guidance is not only to know how to reach that path. Guidance is to actually reach it and realize it, to become the best, right? Not just to know how to become the best. Allah sent you the Quran to complete you, so that you can become the best. So that is guidance. So Allah uses a few verses of the Quran that is a clear book from Allah. With it, Allah guides him who follows his pleasure. Allah guides him. Or the purpose of the Quran, he has sent down, the book, the speech of Allah has been sent down, is the guidance of the people. Hudan lin-nas, guidance. And we said guidance has two meanings. Talked about this before. In Surah al-Hamd they talk about it, that Ira'at al-tariq, or al-isal ila al-matlub, to know the path or to reach the path. But you can say that reaching is part of guidance, that you need to reach. To reach is the part. So when you put this together, the full import of the sentence would be the following. So he says, I'm going to construct a new sentence for you. When you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the guidance, total guidance, is begun with the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. So the guidance, total guidance, has begun with the name of Allah. This is what Allah mentions, that you can add it in this way, because the purpose of reciting Quran, or the verses of the Quran, is for guidance. So therefore, when you're starting in the name of Allah, you're starting in that path of guidance. You're doing it for your guidance. Whom the servants say, He is beneficent and merciful, and we'll talk about hopefully those later on. So today we reviewed, Surah al Waqiah from the beginning, the purpose of it, the fadilat of it, We will talk about the verses later on. We started with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We didn't do ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, but we know that it is important to start our actions with the name of Allah, and how Allah Ta'ala mentions that the purpose of the Quran being revealed is for guidance. So we start in the name of Allah, for the purpose of guidance.
إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء